Hi everyone, I'm Shelly from There's No Place Like Home at redheadmommy.wordpress.com. It is a crazy, crazy world out there right now. And unfortunately, it is so crazy that there are schools closed everywhere. And some people are pretty much being thrown into homeschooling. So a few other YouTubers decided to get together to make some tutorials to help those of you who might not have been expecting the homeschool but find yourself here actually having to do it. So today's video is really about emergency homeschooling basics. Okay, so first things first. When I say homeschooling, I'm not referring to the online public school that some schools are actually doing with their students. I know that there are schools who don't have their kids going to the actual building, but they have their kids doing work online. So when I say homeschooling, I'm not referring to that. I'm also not referring to some schools I think are sending home packets of work for their students that they have to complete. I am not referring to that either. What I am referring to is those families who do not really have any specific assignments from their school, or those who are actually thinking about, you know what, maybe it's time that we start homeschooling. That is what I am talking about. I am talking about parent-directed learning, not school learning. So I just really wanted to point that out to you. So if you are doing a public school online, this might not be the right video for you to watch unless you are wanting to supplement your child's learning. You know, you might want to be doing the online public schooling, and then you might want to be supplementing with some other activities that you can do. So you could definitely keep watching for some ideas on that. But I'm not really going to give you any specific advice about doing online work or about doing the school packets. So anyway, first of all, I just want to start this video out with some encouragement, because I know that these are crazy times. I already said that in the intro, right? But they are. I can't reiterate that enough. And you know, it was just several months ago that I had to make a video for all of the parents whose children are not vaccinated and their kids got thrown out of school because of the vaccine mandates. I feel like I am having to redo that all over again, but this time for a lot more people. So first of all, I want you to think about this as a respite for your kids. I know that this is something that they're not used to, and it's something that you are not used to. You're used to your kids being out in school every day. But the thing is that your kids being at home right now, a lot of them are not just being protected from the coronavirus as they're at home with you. You know, they're protected from a lot of bullying, from a lot of boredom stemming from the sorts of activities that they're doing in school. They're protected from school-induced stress, peer pressure, and unfortunately, yes, they are protected from indoctrination. So I want you to just kind of look at this first and foremost as almost a vacation for your kids, because really, it is highly likely that your kids do need to detox from school. So one thing that I really want to point out to you is that if your school did not give you specific directives on what you need to do with your kids, on what you need to have them complete while they are at home, if you don't have anything to do like that, I know that some schools are telling parents to treat it like a spring break. So if your school is telling you that, I know that there are some parents who are still worrying that their kids aren't going to be learning, but I can assure you, your kids are learning every day. Learning does not just happen in school. It does not just happen if your kids are doing specific assignments. It does not just happen if they are doing academic work. If your kids are awake, they're learning. And that's something that I think a lot of parents have lost sight of, because so many parents are used to their kids, you know, doing all of those sorts of things in school. So really, if your school is telling you to treat it like a spring break, I'm encouraging that. Let your kids have that time off. As I mentioned, detoxing. Let your kids detox from school. A lot of kids really do need it. And another piece of encouragement that I want to give to you is just, enjoy your time together. I mentioned that this is likely something that your kids aren't used to, and this isn't something that you are used to. So it's not guaranteed that you're automatically going to have everything working the way that you want it to when they're at home. There might be some butting heads. Siblings might be bickering back and forth, and you might find yourself feeling a little bit frazzled. But again, you really just need to let yourself and your kids transition into this predicament. I will tell you that even people who have been homeschooling their kids for a long time have those moments where they're feeling frazzled. So don't think that there's something wrong with you or something wrong with your kids if you're feeling impatient with them at times. Give yourself time and give yourself a break. Now, with that being said, I'm going to give you a very simple homeschool routine to get you started. And this is mainly for those people who, as I mentioned before, might have let this current situation finally be the catapult that they needed to just take their kids out of school and say, that's it. I'm going to start homeschooling right now that this is going on. So some people might be saying that. Other people might be wanting to, as I mentioned before, just want to supplement the learning that they're having to do on top of everything else that they're doing in school. And yet there are other families who don't have anything really that the school is requiring of them, but who are a little bit uncomfortable with just letting their kids do nothing. And again, I want to point out, they're not doing nothing, they're learning. But I get it. I get that a lot of families will benefit from the routine that comes with homeschooling. A lot of kids really do need to have some sort of rhythm throughout their day. They need to know what is going to happen next. You don't need to necessarily set certain times to do everything, but as long as there is a routine that your kids can follow, a lot of them will be reassured in that, and their behavior will show it as well. So normally, when somebody is looking into homeschooling, I would tell them that you should read up on the history of education, the history of compulsory schooling. You should read up on how children learn. You should read up on learning styles, or you should even watch your kids, observe your kids, see how they like to do things. Do they like to use their hands? Their hands? Do they like to read things? Do they like to watch things on TV? Do they like to listen to books? Pay close attention to what your kids are doing. I would also tell you to look into different homeschooling styles because there are a lot of them. But I understand that right now we're at a point where a lot of parents just don't have time to do that because this has all been so unexpected. So again, I'm going to give you a basic routine that you can start with, but just think of this as a starting point. It's not something that you have to stick to forever, depending on how long you're planning on homeschooling your kids for. It's not something you have to stick with. This is just something to kind of get the ball rolling until you are able to do all of that research that I talked about. I will leave some links in the description box that have some recommended reading. I talk about different homeschooling styles. I will leave all of those links in the description box for you. But for now, what I want you to remember is that homeschooling and school are two completely different things. So if you were envisioning that you were going to have a stack of textbooks for your kids right away, and that you were going to have them, first racing through language arts and doing that, check. Do math, check. Social studies, check. Science, check. Yeah, you know what? Some homeschooling families do that. You don't have to do it that way though. And at this point in time, I'm sure that most of you don't just have like curriculum laying around that is just waiting to be used. Most of you are probably really unprepared for that. And I'm going to tell you that that's probably a good thing because a lot of kids actually learn better with methods other than textbooks. So here is what you really just need to get started with your kids when it comes to homeschooling. Find a good book to read to them. If you don't like to read aloud, and honestly, I'm going to tell you, this isn't something that everyone enjoys, and it's also not something that everyone is used to. So your kids might have to get used to being read to, and you as the parent might have to get used to reading aloud if it isn't something that you normally do. You don't have to read aloud. I'm just recommending it because it's a nice way to get started in your day. It's a very gentle way to get school started, and it's a very bonding experience for you. So that is a suggestion, to find a good book that you will all enjoy and just read a chapter a day to your kids, or however long they can sit for, depending on their age. Just enjoy that time together. If you really, really don't want to read to them, you can always maybe find an audiobook. You could probably find some online. I'm pretty sure that most libraries are closed. I usually send people to the library, but if you don't have the library, just look online. I'm sure that you could find audiobooks there. So read to your kids. Second of all, find a good silent reading book for your kids. Let your kids choose their own book that they want to read. Again, it's harder now because libraries are closed. And truly, that is like my favorite homeschool tool. People always ask me, what do I need most to homeschool? And I always tell them, a library card. So yeah, you're at a disadvantage not having a library. But if you do have a home that is filled with books, or if you are willing to maybe just go on Amazon and let your kids go through some books that they might be interested in reading, let them do that. But for now, I know that a lot of times people think that you have to assign all of the books that you want your kids to read when you're homeschooling them. And no, you can at times, but I want to encourage you right now, you're new to this. Let your kids enjoy what they're doing. Let them pick out a book that they would like to read. So you've got a read aloud and you've got silent reading. After that, you really just want to find a good language arts workbook. Now, you don't need to be doing anything expensive. You don't need to be going out and getting this, several $100 curriculum. This is what my kids are using right now for language arts. It's just a workbook. I got it on Amazon. It was like between $7 and $10. I'm really not sure. You don't have to get this specific language arts book, but I just want to really reiterate to you that workbooks are sufficient for teaching these things to your kids. Now, language arts and math are really those foundational skills. So if you do want to focus on anything when it comes to homeschooling your kids right now, focus on language arts and math. Now, in addition to language arts, if you have younger kids, you might want to get them, like a little printing workbook. You don't have to. You could even print up some worksheets from online. You can find lots of free stuff online. You might want to find a little phonics workbook for your kids. Now, again, this one is actually, it's considered a work text. You could probably find a phonics book for much less than what I paid for that. But really a phonics book just for those kids who aren't reading yet. And if you want to, you could always, if your kids are not reading yet and you want to help them learn to read, Teach Your Child to Read in 100 Easy Lessons is a great book for teaching kids to read. You can find that on Amazon. I'm assuming that deliveries are going to continue right now. I don't know, honestly. So these are all just possibilities, but I'm just trying to give you ideas on how you can get your kids to learn at least these foundational skills while they're at home. Math is the same way as language arts. You don't need like a huge textbook. You could just pick up some workbooks. Now, here in Pennsylvania, we have a state of emergency. So all non-essential stores have to be closed for the next 2 weeks. So yeah, that might make things hard for those of you who live in states like mine, who, you might not be able to go out there to a store and get a workbook right now, or you might not be able to order anything on Amazon because that's kind of iffy. I don't even know. I haven't looked into that. So I want to just encourage you again to look online. Khan Academy is a great website. It's free. You could use that for your kids for math as well. Otherwise, depending on your kids' age, you could just use board games at home. You could use, Monopoly. You could use Yahtzee, Uno. Just play other card games like Rummy or Go Fish, Parcheesi. There are so many different games as well that you might already have at home that, yeah, you could use these things to do math with your kids. Now, after you have like the basics of the foundational skills kind of taken care of, language arts and math, everything else really, you can kind of just let your kids have at it. Let them learn about things that they are interested in, because you know what? The world is not broken up into subject areas like school is. You know, we don't go outside and everything is kind of marked and in the appropriate category for whether it's history or whether it's science or whether it's math. You know, everything is integrated. So you can rest assured that when your kids are interested in something, they are very likely to cover all of those subjects on their own. So, you know, let them watch documentaries about maybe their favorite animal, or if they'd like to learn about a country, or if they like a certain historical period. Go for walks with your kids. If you live in an area that is not like really populated, if you live in a more open area, go for walks with your kids. Enjoy nature. Just be observant of the things around you. Watch the birds. Look at the trees. Watch the seasons change as these weeks pass. You could also bake or cook together. Baking and cooking are actually, they're another great way for you to do math with your kids. That's a great way for them to learn fractions. It's a great way for them to multiply things, like if you have to double or triple a recipe, or if you have a smaller family and you need to cut a recipe in half, there's division. So you just really have to be resourceful, and you really have to try to think outside the box of what you are used to. Some other things that you can do with your kids are, to do puzzles with them, do Legos, do art projects, find some fun, science experiments. A lot of them are on YouTube with like using just items from around your kitchen. Kitchen science experiments is what they're called. Do Mad Libs with your kids. If you have Mad Libs, do some of that with your kids. That's a great way to get grammar in for your kids. And again, it's a very bonding experience for you to have with your kids. And honestly, that is all that you need to get started on a basic homeschool routine. So I'm just going to very quickly say it again. Read to your kids, make sure that they are reading something. Find a little workbook, or maybe you could find some free worksheets online that you can print up for them. And then again, math, you could cover that with a little workbook. You could cover that with board games, depending on their age. You could also cover that through Khan Academy, which again, I want to say is free. Everything else, just let your kids follow their own interests. Let them, for once, learn about things that they want to know about. All too often, the kids, when they're learning things in school, it's not stuff that they really want to know about. And a lot of times, if they are really interested in something, they're probably not going to learn about it in school. This is their opportunity. This is the opportunity that you can give your kids to really start to love learning and to understand what life learning is all about, because learning is something that we should do in all areas of life. It does not just happen in school. So anyway, just remember, this is a wonderful opportunity for you. As bad as things are right now, we need to kind of look on the bright side of things. And this is a wonderful opportunity for you to explore outside the box of education with your kids. Learn together with them. Maybe your eyes will be open to things that you never knew. I'm learning with my kids all the time, and I've been homeschooling for 11 years. So really, who knows? You might find that you enjoy this lifestyle so much that you don't want to go back even when they can. Anyway, that's all that I have for you today. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed yet and would like to hear more of what I have to say, I would love if you would do that. If you have any questions or comments, you can leave one over on Instagram because YouTube disabled my comments. And if you like my work and would like to check out my Patreon page, I will leave a link in the description box for that as well. And I hope you have a great day.